Welcome to Wizards of the Tower.
Roleplay.
Last episode, we're going to be talking about something that's kind of came to our gaming group, and we want to discuss it, and that is bullying in RPGs. Welcome to Wizards of the Tower.
Roleplay.
So we're going to hit upon a very, it's not a controversial subject, but
It's a touchy subject.
It's a touchy subject.
Yeah.
And that is bullying in RPGs in groups.
Yeah.
And the reason we want to talk about this is one of our players, their son is actually our DM right now. Son came and joined us in our last session. And he's 12 or 13 years of age. He's a pretty good player for his age.
Yeah, really good. Really good.
And he was telling us stories of the gaming group that he had been playing in and hadn't gone to for the past 4 sessions because he just wasn't having fun. And that was because what he was describing was a form of bullying.
Yeah.
And it was his dungeon master. They almost never had any combat, which this young player, kind of was getting frustrated about. Now, games aren't always about combat, but let's face it, that's part of the draw of playing Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder or many other RPGs. You're going to have some combat. And if you're not, that's something you need to explain to your players. We're never going to do this because maybe it's not the game for you. But what he was describing was every time he did something that the DM did not like, the DM made him spin this wheel of random things that he had to do. And it would be things like, well, now you've got to talk in an Old English accent consistently for 30 minutes without stopping.
Yeah, and if you don't, you've got to keep doing it.
And if you don't, then I'm going to penalize you.
Yeah.
I'm going to do something to your character.
Yeah. And
this was just one example that the player gave, but there were many other things that were going on.
Yeah.
Turning him into something, just taking away all of the fun. And it was a form. We all 4 of us that have been playing, Tom and Josh and myself said, well, that sounds like bullying.
Yeah, it does.
Because it really is a form of bullying.
Now
when you start doing this to a player and you're taking away the fun.
Now, he described a lot more stuff. We're not going to describe everything because it's almost like the Lord of the Flies scenario here.
Yeah.
Almost right along the edge of like a Paris Island boot camp sort of deal for kids.
Yeah. RPGs should always be fun, should be escapism, should be a good time.
Now, within reason, RPGs should apply to the people who are in there, in the players, and allow them expression, joy, fun, interesting activities, a good round of escapism, and they should be
some laughs.
And there should be should be humor, whatever, but it should be enjoyable by all. Okay, and if you're not enjoying yourself, you should probably bring it up with the DM and say, I'm just not really enjoying this. Maybe something else needs to change or something like that. In that sense, or if you're just not enjoying yourself and the group doesn't seem right for you, you can always just drop out.
Right.
Now, what this young player was describing to us sounded us like the DM was having a lot of fun bullying the hell out of the players.
Especially him.
Yeah, especially him.
Really wasn't anybody else. It was just really him.
Yeah, so to me it seems as if he was really getting kind of sadistic pleasure in kind of screwing with a kid. Screwing with another player.
Even though they're the same age or around the same age.
Now, we all, all of us made it through elementary school and junior high school. If you did. A lot of
us were bullied.
A lot of us were bullied, and a lot of us, still have a lot of, anxiety or resentment to that. And it is a sad fact that in our society, bullying, by and large, is accepted as long as it's kept in certain sort of contexts of sport, group activities, highly competitive activities. The strong often bully the weak to try to either get them to drop out or to get them to improve, that sort of thing. Now, I've seen coaches, throw balls in people's faces to try to get them to pay attention, to stop talking, look at the ball, and they throw a ball at their face, that kind of thing. Now, is that correct? Well, there's a lot of people who would accept that and say, well, that's how you learn, through pain or trauma or whatever, but is that appropriate? Well, we can argue all day long whether or not that makes a good player on a football game, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about an RPG where everybody brings what they have to the table, and they get together and they have fun.
Yeah, to make an adventure together.
Yeah.
And I really felt for this young player. We actually extended an invite to him as long as his mom and his dad, agreed if he had his homework done and he had his chores done, and he wasn't being punished for, being disobedient to mom and dad.
Yeah.
Because he was a fine young player.
Yeah.
For a 13-year-old, I had a lot of fun with him.
Yeah, he did a good job, and he knew the rules, and he was learning quickly, and I really liked it. Now, what we're talking about is a bullying DM. And the bullying DM would single out certain players and punish them if they didn't seem to be, up to snuff in the role play arena, or they weren't paying particular attention to the story, or if they were, dissing the DM's, storyline, or
dissing, picking on the player. It's like they're always doing bad things to that player and nobody else.
Yeah, and people pick, they pick on people. There's no doubt about it that there's some people who get picked on. And so, you have a DM who essentially does stuff like that. You've got to wonder, well, are they doing it to kick him out of the game? Are they doing it to get some kind of sadistic pleasure in doing it? Well, how do the other players feel about it? Are the other players leaning back and laughing it off, because it's fun to watch, somebody get bullied? Are they uncomfortable about it? Is the DM just essentially like a tyrant, who basically runs the game as if it's their own private fiefdom and controls everybody's behavior right down to the exact sentence or words that they have to say during the game? Because that's kind of how it sounded.
Yeah, are they playing favoritism with the other players, and just because they don't maybe really like this player that much, they're picking on them?
Yeah.
Making them try to leave, or just...
Yeah.
Just being a bully.
Or just being a bully to them.
Are they being biased? Unconscious bias. We all have our unconscious biases. We all have them.
Yeah,
that's a fact.
This sounds like conscious bias to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, is it appropriate? Well, I'm going to say right now, in my opinion, no, it is not appropriate.
Yeah. In fact, we told this young player, I says, I would never go back. I said, in all my years, I've had a few people that were like that, and I didn't go back to them.
Yeah.
I didn't have fun, and I'm like, I'm not going back. And I didn't give an excuse. I just quit showing up.
Yeah, I remember a conversation I had with a DM who loved to TPK his party. And he would just laugh it off. He's like, oh, I killed them all again last night, and they did one stupid mistake, and I killed them all. And he had a big grin on his face. And I thought to myself, I bet you have a hard time finding players. Because I wouldn't put up with that. I wouldn't put up with that at all. You've got a sadistic DM who just loves it when you're, okay, you guys got to roll up new players, new characters, because you just, I threw the undead bone dragon at you and you're all level 1. You should have been prepared, that kind of thing. I'd be like, man, what a jerk. I'm getting out of this one. That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
If you played long enough, you're going to have DMs like that, where they just get glee out of messing with their players,
Yeah. Then let's turn the other side. You get the bully player.
Yeah.
There was a group that Tom and I played in that there was one of the players was actually bullied kind of out of both of us.
Yeah.
He didn't like anything that we did.
No. That was when we first started.
Yeah.
Right? I
remember. That was in the Fort Collins group
Yeah,
that we
I
played
remember
in.
that. Yeah, they didn't like anything that we did. Now, I have to tell you right now that we felt very distinctly unwelcome. in that group.
Yeah, the DM made us feel welcome, but the other
the
3 players did not.
Yeah, they did not make us feel welcome. Now, I will admit, I was just starting out playing, and I didn't know all the rules. But those guys were real jerks to us. Now, they had been playing a long time.
Yeah.
In a group, and when you're playing a long time and you're trying to bring in some other people, it's very difficult to try to mesh them into the gears. It really is. It's almost like you should just end that campaign and start a new one, and then bring everybody in at the same level so they can all learn at the same level. They were trying to bring us into a high-level campaign, and I had a hard time because I'll admit I didn't know the rules that much. I was reading the books, I was trying to do some stuff. I put a lot of effort into my characters, and the DM was...
nice.
The DM was nice about
accommodating.
it. And he was accommodating, but the other players were real jerks. And
you're causing us to deviate what we want to do.
Yeah, so it was kind of like we were just tagging along, and I really didn't see...
Yeah.
I had put in a whole backstory effort onto a character, and I'd written this long backstory, and this character had, this whole thing that had happened in this region of the land, and as he finally, managed to get hold of a magic object that was really powerful, and the DM has said I could do that. He said I could create a magic object, and so I wrote this long backstory. And when we finally wrote about it, and we talked about it, basically everybody just laughed it off. Whatever. I'm going to go over and read my book of the 95 sentient swords so I can take on the dragon army. It's like, okay, well, I just wasted all my time. This didn't do any good, and it didn't work. That's when we pulled out of the game because we figured
it wasn't fun.
Yeah.
It started off as okay, and it just,
it went downhill. It's just because they were not willing to work with us. But also their behavior was really inappropriate quite often. Demeaning, condescending, basically like that. And we did not feel welcome. So if you're out there, folks, that's how we felt.
Yeah. We had another person that gamed with us for a long time. He'd always get really upset when, we've talked about him before. If you did something that he didn't want you to do, he would no, don't do that. Yeah. And I always loved to just do what he didn't want to do.
Yeah. As a player, he thought he was running the game. He was power gaming, but he thought he was running the game.
Yeah, he was very overbearing, and we actually lost some players because of it. Because they got into an argument.
Yeah, we had players get up and walk off and leave the table because of this guy. And we found out some things about him, and that's why we don't game with him anymore, which I'm not going to talk about. But when you start losing other players because they can't stand the guy, that should be a pretty good clue that something's wrong here, that something's wrong with that guy. And he's too dominant, he's too overbearing. He's a rules lawyer too, and he was very difficult to play with because he always seemed to have a character.
Yeah, telling the DM, you can't do that.
Yeah, he always seemed to have an angle. It wasn't like that he had worked out a character that he was just having fun with. To him, he always had to have an angle in his characters where they were always superior, vastly superior to everybody else's characters, and thus wanted to control the narrative of the game, even against the DM's wishes. He was very domineering and controlling like that, and we all felt we were being bullied by the guy. It's like, this is terrible, man. I hate playing with this guy. Now, I will say one thing, he was consistent when he showed up, but he was very difficult to deal with.
Yeah. Or maybe they're argumentative to you.
Yeah.
Argumentative everybody.
Now, we had people like that who would argue with every step of the way. And it was just like, man, this is horrible trying to play this game. This player just wants to argue with everybody about what's going on. Argue with the DM about every little point. Every little thing that happens. Well, you can't do that. Well, you can't do that to my character. Well, you can't do that.
You can't do that. Rule book says right here.
Yeah, not only that, but I put a lot of time and effort into this character. You can't kill that character off. It's like, what are you arguing, man? It's just
the dice rolls did.
Yeah, the dice roll. If you get bad dice rolls, don't blame the DM for your bad dice rolls. Okay. The thing is people can become very domineering when they get into a group. Yeah. There's always this kind of competition that someone wants to try to take over the group against the wishes of the other people in the group or the DM, the group leader, something like that. Someone's always vying for position, jockeying for position. And then you end up with situations like that where people in the game aren't having any fun.
Yeah. Bullying is just, it's not needed in an RPG. You know, we live in a society right now that is just, you know, the stress of the world is bad enough, and everything that's going on, you know, whatever side you're on, and whether you're happy about what's going on or you're sad, you know, deeply depressed with what's going on, you know, we don't need bullying. This is our escapism from the outside world of the stuff that's going on.
Yeah, you know? It's you know, RPGs have been sources of escapism and enjoyment for years and years, and that's the way they should be. They shouldn't be a source or a focus of contextual anxiety. Not in any shape or form.
Yeah. Now, we had initially invited this young player to actually sit down with us for this, and his dad said, "No, you probably don't want to do that because your friends might see it, and upset your friends." And he's right. He's right. We thought, yeah, you know, you are right about that. You know, we don't want to put him in that situation where it makes it tough for, you know, the kids he's going to school with, or people he's kind of friends with, you know.
You have to...
Not that I would consider somebody who bullies me in a game a friend.
Well, you have to put it in the context of social relationships now. Yeah. They're a lot different now with kids than they were when we were kids. I mean, people, you know, we would find other ways to interact, but now with a lot of people, their online social interactions are everything to them, and that's why you have things like cyberbullying, which I would never even imagine as a thing, but it's a terrible thing, and it really affects people's lives, and so you have to be super careful how people present themselves socially.
Yeah,
you know, and I mean, in a way, this channel suffered a little bit of cyberbullying from a person for a while until we just got rid of the guy. You know, because we got sick and tired of it. You know, that's just how we were, and we're like, we're not putting up with that BS.
Booted him to the wayside.
Yeah, booted him to the wayside. So that's, you know, it's just how we are as a generation. You know, I would love to hear what people think about interactions and how they interact within their games. If you're a DM and you've got, you know, issues with characters, or you're a player and you've got problems with other players because of their dominant behavior, or you've got a problem with your DM. We would love to hear it, and maybe hear how you've resolved that conflict, you know, in a certain way. It'd be nice. I think it'd be good for people who see the show to maybe come up with some strategies about how to deal with an unsavory kind of situation.
Yeah, with a bully in your group. You know, if I have a bully in the group, I'm booting them to the curb, and we've done that.
Yeah.
You know, the many that we've had.
Without saying any names, we've gotten rid of some characters. We've had to because their behavior was just too bad.
Yeah.
It was just too bad. It wasn't making it fun anymore. We just had enough problems. And I you know, before we started recording, we were talking about various players that we've run into who have bullied their significant others in the game, which I just outrageous.
Yeah, they'd come in as a married couple, or as a couple, and they'd bully.
Yeah,
and it would get kind of tense.
Get real tense.
Or even, you know, not just as a player DM, but a player.
Player.
Two players.
Yeah.
You know, that was. I remember the one that was having a ton of fun, and their spouse was not present in the game, and then they decided they didn't want to game anymore and made them quit.
I know. Yeah. That was a way to really lose a good character, a really good player.
Yeah. So we'd like to hear about your instances of bullying in games, whether it's in your current game or past games. What do you do about it? You know, like I said, I'm going to boot somebody to the curb if they're bullying in my game, in my session, and Tom would do the same thing, you know, if they're in our group. And this young player, I really felt for him, and you know, that's why we invited him back, because we thought he was fun. I had a lot of fun playing with him.
But the thing is what if you can't boot somebody because they're part of your social circle, and you just can't do it. So that kind of strategy, I think, would be really valuable, I think, to listen to if you've got a strategy for dealing with someone like that. And you could tell other listeners or other watchers what how you dealt with it. So we'd really like to hear from people on this.
Yeah. So anyway, I think we're going to end this episode of Wizards of the Tower.
Role play.
Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, ring the bell. If you've got an idea for an episode, please let us know. Either put it in the comments or put it on the Discord, send us an email.
Yep.
Whatever. Just, let us know if you've got an idea you'd like to see us do. We'll do what we can. And if you leave a comment, we will always reply back with whether it's a thanks or whatever.
Yeah.
We will always reply back. We appreciate everybody that follows us.
We sure do.
May all your adventures be epic.
And keep on rolling.
Thanks, folks.
Thank you.